not subscribed, please subscribe and press the bell icon.
So, okay, friends, the topic today is analytical procedure. So, I'll take it in reference to SA 520, which talks of analytical procedures. Now, one analysis again could be in terms of this is a paper by Raghuveer Kaur, who is from IIT Roorkee. So, it is a paper by Raghuveer Kaur, Kartikesh Sharma, and Ashu Khanna. Now, this paper talks about Benish model, and using Benish M score, she had analyzed earning management in 6 popular sectors: IT, BPO, retail, telecom, biotech, hotels, and coffee. And she has concluded about earning management using this forensic model. So this forensic model, Benish model, can be used, and the indices and ratios within can be used again to detect earning manipulations much in advance. So this is again a kind of analysis we could think of. We'll be talking in detail about this model and certain other areas in this topic. Now, friends, data analysis, if you look at the plain definition talks of data analysis is a process of inspecting, cleansing, transforming, and modeling data with the goal of discovering useful information, informing conclusions, and supporting decision making. It is a method, through which data is collected, organized, and you could get some insights. Now, if I talk about plain thing, data, right? Now, data could be raw facts, which might not mean something. But when some meaning is assigned to data, they become information. And when this information is collected, analyzed, and stored, which can be used, becomes knowledge. And knowledge, when coupled with experience, becomes wisdom. So the process is to convert from data to the insights, data to wisdom. So the basic idea is how we can take some data, inspect it, cleanse it, use some kind of a model with that. Okay. The basic goal is, can we find some useful insights out of it? So that is the topic for the day. Now, friends, a lot of you would have studied various essays, and if I talk of essay 500, essay 500, a lot of CS are there, and probably some students have also logged in. So my question, essay 500 is about what? Can anybody put in the chat very quickly? Because let it be interactive, let it not be a kind of a one-way street. So let it be a two-way street. So I'm watching the chat on the YouTube, don't worry. So just put in the chat, essay 500 is about. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, so we got essay 500, which talks about those 6 things. Okay, the audit procedures, right? So it's about audit evidence. Wonderful, Soumya. Wonderful, Anumala. Again, very good. So I believe as a CS, you know about essay 500, and essay 500 talks about those audit procedures. And very quickly, can somebody come up with what are the audit procedures essay 500 talks about? Just to start with, one is observation. So one is observation, documentation, inquiry. Soumya, good, very good. So observation, inquiry, inspection, external confirmations. Again, is what more? One left. One big one left. Analytical procedures, professional solutions. Wonderful. So the last one is analytical procedures. So if you look at essay 500, it talks of audit evidence. In reference to audit evidence, it talks about reliable evidence. Okay, it talks about relevant evidence, and it talks about audit procedures, right? So if you talk about audit procedures, then in audit procedures it talks about various methods. You all gave some wonderful responses to it. Okay, inspection, observation, and all that. And one of them is what? Analytical procedures. So if you look at analytical procedures, what are analytical procedures? Analytical procedures is evaluation of financial information through analysis of plausible relationships amongst both financial and non-financial data. And when we talk of analytical procedures, we talk of which essay? Anybody in the chat? Come on, it's just a recap of what you all did. Maybe some recently, some time back. Wonderful. So essay 520. So good. Essay 520 talks about analytical procedures. So it talks about what? It talks about relationships amongst financial and non-financial data. So it talks about relationship between financial and non-financial data. Can somebody come up with any example of non-financial data? I mean, so how do you find some example of financial and non-financial? Okay, number of employees and salary, Soumya, that's good. GP ratio with sales, okay. Payroll with number of workers, okay. Bank guarantee, very good. So strike in factory with sales, okay, right, Akshay? What do you mean is strike in factory? and market reports, sales to number of employees in sales department. Okay, so idea is that analytical procedures, we talked about relationship amongst financial and non-financial data. Now it could be, as you rightly said, it could be GP to sales. Okay, it could be GP to sales. So that could be one of the analytical procedures where you look at some kind of relationship between GP and the sales. Okay. Now it could even be the commission paid to sales. They could also be, if we look at, in 1 year the commission is less, and next year, commission has increased a lot, but sales has not, increased some kind of correspondingly. So that is again our cause of concern, right? So those are the kind of relationships we'll be looking at. Okay. Then it could be even, electricity consumed with the production or sales. Okay, even units consumed to production in each of the units. Okay, and if I further talk about non-financial data, it could be your stock and the size of godown. What is involved is the relationship of one thing with another. Now, if I just ask you a very simple question. Okay, if I talk of analytical procedures and we've discussed a bit of it, my question to you is, what do you think is the keyword when we talk of analytical? Because I got a YouTube running on a separate machine, so I got to just check up there. Excellent, Kaushik. It is relationship. If I really talk about analytical procedure, the keyword here is what? It is relationship. Okay. Heck yeah. It is a relationship of one thing to another. GP to sales, commission to sales, godown size to, the stock. It's what ultimately? Relationship. You gave the example of employees to something. It is what again? It is relationship. So if you really talk of SA 520, then SA 520, when it is talking of analytical procedures, it is talking of relationship. Okay, it is talking of relationship of one thing to another. Now those two things could be what? Could be financial, could be non-financial. Okay. Now my next question to you is, analytical procedure, when are they required? I mean, say if you look at the whole life cycle of your audit, when are the analytical procedures required? So anybody in the chat, to take a decision, Akshat Modi, wonderful, at every stage, in all stages of audit, watching to finalizing data, understanding variances at the time of conclusion. So basically, friends, when we talk of analytical procedures, they are required at all the stages, right? So they are required at the initial stage, they are required during the audit, they are required at the end of the audit. So initial, if I talk of, then comparison with previous year data, okay, or comparison with the industry standard, or very kind of ratio analysis. So all these are done at the start. And mind it, if you talk of SA 315 is on, anybody on the chat, 315 is on what topic? Risk assessment. Sumit, wonderful. So 315 is on risk assessment, right? Now, risk assessment, again, you do during various procedures. And risk assessment, if I talk of, if you remember SA 315, it also talks of what? It also talks of those four things, and one amongst them is analytical procedures. Again, for risk assessment, you will be needing analytical procedures. Now, when you talk of ROMM or risk of material misstatements, it again has got two components. One is inherent risk, then the control risk, and finally is the detection risk when we talk of audit risk. So audit risk is also comprised of what? It also needs some kind of analytical procedures. So when we talk of before taking an assignment, or before going in for an assignment, or even planning for an assignment, what you need to do is you need to do the risk assessment, for which you will be doing some kind of analytical procedures. So analytical procedures are there at every stage of the whole life cycle. Okay. Then during the audit also you'll be talking of audit procedures, analytical procedures. Okay, like your work in progress with material, or material consumption with the sales or production. Okay, so they are again some kind of analytical procedures. So something we call as substantive tests. Okay, testing of details. So when we talk of testing of details, again what you need is you need some kind of comparisons. Okay, so you need some kind of analytical procedures. We talk of relationship, we talk of analytical procedures. So they are also required during the audit. Okay, and also at the end of it. Now, if you talk of analytical procedures, then broadly what we have is One could be through trend analysis, right? So analytical procedures could be through some kind of trend analysis. Now they could be through some kind of ratio analysis. Okay, they could also be, to establish some kind of relation, some kind of reasonableness. Okay, means you got some expectation, then you look at actuals, you compare these two, and based on this comparison, you look whether it is reasonable or not. Okay, is it in line with your expectation or not? No, with those broad basics, let me tell you one thing, friends. Analytical procedure is also the key to fraud investigations. Okay, so when we talk of forensics, analytical procedures form a good portion of it. So when we talk of forensics, again, analytical procedures form a good portion of it. What I'll say is probably at the initial stage, or maybe during the audit, you could use various mathematical models. I'll just be discussing one model, but there are other models too, right? So I'll just discuss one model, and you will yourself realize in this model what is the benefit and the importance and the criticality of using some kind of a model to do risk analysis or use some kind of analytical procedures. We talked of three things. We talked of trend analysis, we talked of ratio analysis and reasonableness, which are some kind of analytical procedures. I'll be talking about Banish mode. Okay, I put on the YouTube chat a link to from where you can download this material which I'm discussing. Confucius once said, he said, I hear, I forget, I see, I remember, I do, I understand. So my premise is I am doing some things, maybe I'll be using Excel and a lot of these kind of things. And if you want to do with me, understand it more, you're most welcome. Now friends, Banish model, just imagine World Bank uses and advises the use of Banish model. Banish model has been used by analysts at Merrill Lynch and Prudential Securities, amongst others. Banish model has been taught at some top universities like Berkeley, Chicago, Cornell, Dartmouth, New York, and even being taught at Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, your institute, right? Success rate is 50% or better. Okay, and even ACFE suggests the use of Banish model in its fraud magazine. So Banish model is a pretty important tool which can be used to detect earning manipulations. Now friends, this Banish model consists of 8 components. So here, I want us to be interactive because that's the only way you'll understand these things and I'll understand whether you have comprehended or not, right? Now, this model consists of 8 indices or 8 ratios. And analytical procedures we talked of, ratios is again a kind of analytical procedure, right? The first ratio is DSRI. DSRI is Days Sale Receivable Index. DSRI is Days Sale Receivable Index. That is how many days sale, what is the account receivable to total sale, means how many days sale in the current year divided by account receivable to sales in the preceding year. Means this year how many days outstanding is there versus previous year how many days outstanding is there. My question to you is, if you do a earning manipulation, or you want to pad up your revenues, or you want to increase your sale, you want to use some kind of creative accounting, if you fictitiously increase your sales, cash flow is not going to increase. What will happen? Ultimately, the amount has to be padded off with increase in debtors. So if this year days debtors are more as compared to previous year, what would it be indicative of? Anybody in the chat? Because see, actual sales, actual cash flow is not going to come. So rasta kya hai? Debtors बढ़ा दो. So if you are fictitiously increasing the sale, if you are manipulating or padding up your PL, then what will happen is your DSRI would increase, right? So if it is more than 1. Let's look at the second one. Second is GMI. GMI is Gross Margin Index, और something we commonly call as GP rate, ठीक है, जिसको हम आम भाषा में बोलते हैं GP rate, right? So here it is talking of GMI. So GMI is GP rate in the previous year divided by GP rate in the current year. And if this ratio is more than 1, GP rate in the previous year divided by GP rate in the current year, if this ratio is more than 1, what does it really mean? Anybody in the chat? So GP rate in the current year has decreased. Okay, now just try to imagine if the GP rate in this year is less as compared to previous year, wouldn't there be an incentive to pad up your earnings? Because see, when we talk of fraud, and probably last week you had a very good session on forensic, and in forensic, when we talk of fraud, then there is something called as fraud triangle. Now, fraud triangle says what are the three components which have to be there for a fraud. Okay, one of them is incentive or pressure, right? One of them is incentive or pressure. Now, if just try to imagine, if in this year GP rate is down and you want to please your stakeholders, you want to please everybody, then what is the way out? There is only one way out. You artificially show a rosy picture of your company. So there is an incentive to defraud. So if the GP rate, just imagine, these times, I mean, say COVID times, your sales are down, your GP is down. If you really want to show a good picture, then what's the way out? You somehow manipulate the earnings. Now, the third one is AQI. Now, AQI means Asset Quality Index. Now, if you look at your total asset side, it says 1 minus current assets, means if your whole asset side is 1 and you take out current assets, my question is what remains? What remains are non-current assets. Now, out of non-current assets also, if you take out net fixed assets, तो हमारे पास बचा क्या? हमारे पास बचे क्या? Deferrals. हमारे पास बचे क्या? Intangibles. Now, if your deferrals are increasing, less amount has hit the PL, means आपका जो खर्चा है, आप उसको deferred tax है, आप उसको deferred asset में लेके जा रहे हैं. आपका खर्चा कम हिट होगा PL को, your profitability will be better, you are padding up your earning statement. Yes, Kiran, very right. If deferrals are increased, then possibility of showing higher profitability is there. So if your AQI is high, means you got more deferrals in the current year as compared to previous year, there are chances of earning manipulations. Yes, Shraddha, there are fictitious assets. There could be fictitious assets which could be in the form of deferred assets. We have talked of three indices or three ratios: DSRI, GMI, and AQI. Now let's go to the next one. Next one is SGI. SGI is Sales Growth Index. Next one is Sales Growth Index, means sale in the current year divided by sales in the preceding year. If you want to pad up your earning statements, or if you want to increase your profitability, the way is by increasing sales. Now friends, there could be organic increase in sales and there could be fictitious sales, because if you talk of creative accounting and you want to manipulate your earnings, then one good way is by increasing the sales, right? So somewhere on the receipt side, you got to increase the things. Now one of those is SGI. If your sales in the current year are more than preceding year, but it could also involve some kind of fictitious sales. And if you just look at Enron was the fraud of the century. Enron came in year 2000, one of the biggest frauds which was there in those times. In year 99, the sales or the turnover of Enron was $40 billion. In year 2000, the turnover had increased to $100 billion, means an increase of 2.5 times of the sales as compared to preceding year. And just to take a reference, in year 2000, the entire sales of Microsoft, entire turnover of Microsoft was $25 billion. It means what? It means Enron had grown by more than two Microsofts. And we all know that Enron was one of the huge frauds of those times. So this is sales. If the sales, see what this model tries to bring up is, these are various factors, and think so you can very well now realize that each of these factors is important, and when you combine all these ratios, it gives you a wonderful model. The next one is depreciation index. Now what this says is depreciation in the previous year divided by PPE, okay, which basically means depreciation rate. If depreciation rate in the previous year was more as compared to current year, if the depreciation rate, overall depreciation rate in the previous year was more as compared to current year, means this ratio is positive. What does it really mean? Anybody in the chat? Excellent, Rakesh. So expenses will hit less, okay, profit will increase. So if your depreciation in the previous year was more and current year is less. I think so everybody gets it. Profitability will be high. अगर आपको अपना प्रॉफिट बढ़ाना है तो तरीका क्या है? आप बोलो जी यूजफुल लाइफ ऑफ द एसेट इज मोर. We estimate the useful life of the asset to be more. Less amount hits to depreciation. Then what will happen is your profitability is going to increase. Now the next one is SGAI. SGAI is Selling General Administrative Expenses Index. My question to you is, if the sales are increasing, should SGAI remain the same? Anybody in the chat? Basic point to understand is if your sales is increasing, then your selling general administrative expenses should also increase. Okay, maybe not exactly, but it will definitely increase. Now, if your sales is increasing and your SG is not increasing, what does it really mean? This is ratio of selling general administrative expenses to sale in the current year as compared to preceding year, right? If you're selling general administrative expenses in the current year is not increasing in consonance with the sales, what does it really mean? Yeah, fictitious sales. So fictitious sales could be there. See, that is the beauty of this model. It takes care of various different aspects. So we have talked about selling sales growth index. We talked about depreciation index. We talked about selling general administrative expenses index. Now the next one is leverage index. Leverage index is how much leverage the company is in the current year as compared to preceding year. I will say we all know if your company is highly leveraged, then you have to comply with the lender's covenants. जिसने पैसा दिया उसकी बात माननी पड़ेगी. So maybe when banks lend to you or any kind of a lender lends to you, it is with certain conditions. Means then it becomes imperative on you to show the rosy picture of your company. So if it is highly leveraged, that is an incentive, or there is a pressure to defraud or to show earning manipulation. Leverage index is one of the factors or one of the indices. If the leverage index is positive, that means that you have to comply with the covenants of the lenders. Now the next one is Tata. Tata is total accruals to total assets. Now obviously we have talked earlier also. If your actual revenues are not coming, or if you want to increase your revenues, what is the way out? Means you increase the accruals. ठीक है ना, एक्चुअल पैसा नहीं आ रहा है और अपने को सेल बढ़ाना है, रेवेन्यू बढ़ाना है, तो अपने पास रास्ता क्या है? अपने पास रास्ता accruals बढ़ाएंगे. If your total accruals are increasing, then that is again an indication of some earning manipulations taking place. So these 8 indices we talked of. First was DSRI, Days Sale Receivable Index. Second was GMI, which is the gross profit rate. If the gross profit rate in the current year is less as compared to the preceding year. The next was AQI. AQI was Asset Quality Index. If you got more of deferrals, more of intangibles, means you're trying to pad up your earnings. And then the next one was SGI. SGI was Sales Growth Index. If your sales in the current year is more as preceding year, a portion of it could be due to fictitious sales perhaps. Then you got depreciation index. If your depreciation rate in the current year is less as compared to preceding year, so what does it really mean is less amount of depreciation has hit the PL, your earnings increase or your profitability increases. Then we got SGAI. So ideally your selling general administrative expenses should increase along with the increase in sales. But if they are not increasing, that could be another indication of some kind of fictitious sales being booked to your book. Then we talked of leverage index. Leverage, more leverage your company is, it means that you are under pressure. You're under pressure to show a rosy picture to your bankers, to your lenders. So probably you'll involve yourself into some kind of earning manipulations or some kind of a fraud, right? Tata is total accruals to total assets. Means how much accruals are there as compared to your total assets. If you're increasing your revenues, then correspondingly, if the cash flow is not there, what is going to happen is you're going to increase your accruals. And if you're increasing your revenue, means what? Earning has been manipulated, your more amount has hit your PL, profitability is more. Okay, so I believe these 8 indices would be clear. Now I come to the model. Now this model was proposed by Professor Masood Danish, right? So Masood Danish was in a US university. So he done what? He had calculated these ratios for the companies which were listed on the database which was there for companies. So he took around 2,000-3,000 companies and calculated all these ratios for those companies. And some of these companies were known manipulators and some of the companies were non-manipulators. So कुछ के बारे में already मालूम था कि ये जो है manipulation में involve करते हैं. So there were some known manipulators, there were non-manipulators. Now based on the ratio from these two companies, what he did was he built a model. Now this M-score is the model he built. Now, M-score is minus 4.84 plus 0.92 into DSRI, 0.528 into GMI means all these 8 indices you got to multiply with some kind of a coefficient. Whatever result you get, that is called M score. Now if this M score is greater than minus 2.22 means less negative, then there is a likelihood of that company being a manipulator. If it is less than minus 2.22, then the company could be a non-manipulator. Now my question to you is, if the AM score of the company you are analyzing is minus 2, would it be a manipulator or non-manipulator? So minus 2 is less negative as compared to minus 2.22. Okay, so if you take minus 2.22, okay, then minus 2 is less negative as compared to minus 2.22. Now because it is less negative as compared to minus 2.22, there is likelihood of manipulation. So this company would be a manipulator company. If the M score is minus 3, my question is, will it be a manipulator or non-manipulator? So it would be non-manipulator. Reason is minus 3 is more negative as compared to minus 2.2. Okay, so this is friends M score. M score, we got to look at whether it is more negative or less negative. Now let me just come to this one. See, for Benish model, what I've done is, if you've downloaded the sheets which I've put in the download, there is an Excel model which you can surely use. And if you look at this, Benish M scores, honestly, these are Benish M scores for Satyam. So these are the ratios which I've calculated for Satyam. I've just taken the data from Edgar database of Satyam and put in these ratios. If you look at DSRI, now these are as per Benish. Okay, these are non-manipulator, and these are for the average for all the companies which were into some kind of manipulation. And this is the average according to Benish for all those companies which are non-manipulators. Now if you look at Satyam, the DSRI was 1.1 to 1. It was more than non-manipulators, means again a red flag. Means it was towards a manipulation side. Okay, now GMI was 1.014 for non-manipulators and this, so it was less, so that was good in a way. Now AQI is again comfortable at 0.123, so not much of AQI. Okay, so that was again okay. Now sales growth index, if you look at it, is 1.164, and for manipulators it was 1.607, means 1.463 was very close to, I'll say, towards a manipulation side, right? Even if you look at depreciation index, okay, it is 1.001. Okay, so it was again, quite a high DAPI, which indicates again there could be some kind of manipulations. Okay, then selling general administrative expenses were okay. Leverage index was again very close to the manipulator companies. And Tata, if you look at, is 3 times that of the manipulator companies, and we all know that Satyam was bigger in manipulation. So this Excel sheet even you can use. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to put here some values. I've already put the values of Satyam. So okay, I've already put the values of Satyam. You can use your company, whichever you are auditing or wherever you want to check. Now if you look at these 8 ratios, DSRI, if the DSRI is more than 1, then account receivable to sales is higher as compared to last year, which indicates some kind of adverse. If GMI is less than, in the case of this, if it is more than 1, means GMI is worsened, company is likely to manipulate. And even if AQI is more than 1, company has potentially increased its core deferrals, okay, increase its intangible assets, so it could involve itself in some kind of manipulation of earnings, right? If SGA is positive, okay, means again sales is increasing, a part of it could be fictitious. Then I come to depreciation index. Now depreciation index is reflection of upward adjustment of useful life of fixed assets. Could indicate again less amount hits to depreciation and more profit. SGI is again disproportionate increase in sales as compared to SGI, which is again a negative indication. Tata is again, it is increasing degree of accruals as part of total asset, increasing high chance of manipulation, and increase in gearing of company, and for that matter exposed to manipulation. Now see, individually अगर एक एक इंडेक्स का बात करें तो वो समझ में आता है कि इंडेक्स से कुछ गड़बड़ हो सकती है, बट अगेन नहीं है. बट ब्यूटी क्या है इसकी कि जो ओवरऑल मॉडल है, that not just takes one index, it takes these 8 ratios and 8 रेशियो को ब्यूटीफुली वीव करता है आपको एक इंडिकेशन देने के लिए कि क्या इसमें चांसेस है मैनिपुलेशन के या नहीं है. Right, so Benish model could be your first point to start, because Benish model से आपको एक इंडिकेटर मिल जाएगा, क्योंकि एक तो आपको रेशियोज मिल जाएंगे, ये रेशियो गड़बड़ है So then there could be questions for you to ask कि क्यों है? Because if you talk of analytical procedures, it says जहाँ पर नहीं है, you need to ask the management. It is not as per your expectation. So Banish model के सारे indices आपको कुछ ना कुछ information देंगे. Don't you think that Banish score should be your first point to analyze whether you need to take up the audit in the first place or not? My question to you is, if the Banish score is adverse for a client you are going to audit as a part of your initial assessment, आपके लिए उसका मतलब क्या रहेगा as auditors? So that increases your audit risk. Means you will have to go in for more procedures. Okay, you will have to increase your substantive tests. So are you getting the idea? I mean, see how analytical procedures could help you even to start an audit, right? At the initial stage also they could help you a lot. Right, I think so. You get an idea of how ratio analysis could be used as a analytical procedure. Now, friends, let me come to some more analytical procedures. Analysis is not like a, you call it अंधे की तलवार, बस घुमा दिया कहीं ना कहीं लग गया, right? There has to be an objective. Okay, your analytical procedure and any kind of analysis has to be focused to an objective. If you really talk of, say 500, it talks of what? It talks of reliable and relevant evidence, right? So audit objective is to obtain reliable and relevant evidence, do some analytical procedures, and come up with some kind of conclusions. So first thing I need is some kind of an auditor. For one thing you need is you need to get the data. So सबसे पहले आपको क्या चाहिए? आपको data चाहिए. Practical situation में you will never get a perfect data. So what you need is you'll get the data, you need to first clean the data, right? And only then you can analyze the data. So I'll just take a couple of examples just to make you aware of where we have used the data, we have analyzed the data to give some validation to the client. Now let's come to the whole process. So I'll be discussing based on the time I have, so I'll be taking something like 1 or 2 case studies just to give you the feel of the analysis of data. We got an Excel by the name of cost analysis. I'm just giving you a brief example of what we did for a client and how we do it. Okay, analytical procedures. Now my question to you is, this is the data which I have received. This is again data from one of the ERP systems of my client. I've just anonymized the names, but otherwise, this is the data which has been brought in from the ERP system of one of my clients, right? So what I get is how much is the sales, okay, in terms of quantity and in terms of value. Now what I want to check is what is the margin he has received for each of these products. So these are various items. Now just to correlate the things, what I did was I downloaded the bill of material for all these items. Again from their ERP, we downloaded this whole thing. What we got was each of the items, what is the RM component, what is the PM component for each of these items. So what I got is from the bill of material, I got the RM and PM consumption. Now my question to you is, here I've got a item, here again I got an item. My question to you is, can I use VLOOKUP? You can't use VLOOKUP because this is a different format. Okay, here you got a serial number also, here you got some spaces also, and pack size is different. Here everything is there. There is no serial number. Means they're not homogeneous. And VLOOKUP you can only use for homogeneous items. If you want to make this same as this one, what do I need to do? I need to do 2 things. One is somehow I have to remove the serial number 1. Number 2, remove the extra spaces. Only then I'll be able to do it. So what I'll very quickly explain 1 or 2 functions, and then we'll see how we can use it to clean the data. Okay. Now first function I'll be talking of is left. Now, what left does is it says text and number of characters. Means if I take this whole thing and I say I need 1 character out of this, means what I want to do is I want to extract the leftmost character. I put in a 1. So what I'll be getting is a leftmost character. I'll be just getting a 1. And if I just copy it all across, I'll be getting only the first character. That is left function. Now let me take the right function. Then there is similar function which is, now what right does is it says rightmost character. So I'm just putting in, just for the sake of this, I'm saying 4. Okay, I want a rightmost 4 characters. Now what I'm getting is rightmost 4 characters out of this whole string. Now, but problem क्या है? Problem ये है, sometimes serial number is 1 character, sometimes it is 3 characters, and it may be even 4 characters, right? So these are all varying, number 1. Number 2, these spaces are all varying. The size is different, the pack size is different, right? So everything is different. So we can't use a single formula. Let's say I put a right. Now my question is, how many do I put? How many characters do I want to extract? Now the problem is because it is varying every time. So I can't use just the same one, right, to extract everything. So somehow I have to first clean the things. Somehow I have to first clean the things. One more function which I'll just take for you to understand is there is a function. Now, just to know that how much number of characters in the right I need to put, first I need to know how many characters are there. मेरे को क्या चाहिए, कैरेक्टर टोटल कितने हैं, उसमें सीरियल नंबर के कितने हैं, सीरियल नंबर घटा दूं तो मेरे पास आ जाएगा कितने कैरेक्टर्स मेरे को एक्सट्रैक्ट करने हैं, right? So see, I'm in English, but I know a lot of people are joining from all across India, so I'm in English. But sometimes belonging to the north, Hindi comes in natural. There is a function which is called len. Okay. Now len gives you how many characters are there in each of these. So in first there are 39 characters, in next is 40 characters, then 41 characters, then 40 characters, 39, so on and so forth. Now my question is, what is the size of the serial number? So right, if you see, there are up to 4 characters which could be used for serial number. So now what I do is I reduce 4. So what will happen is it will take the rightmost characters and reduce by 4, means it will leave out the serial number. I'm just going step by step. What I'll do is I'll add a right to it. So now what I'm getting is I'm getting the value without the serial number, but again, there are some spaces out there. And one function we can use is trim. Now trim can be used to remove extra spaces. Okay, trim can be used to remove extra spaces. Now what I get is this kind of a thing, okay, which is the same as this one, means without a serial number and without the extra spaces. Now as soon as I just double click it, so you could use double click here. So here you got a fill handle. If you just double click, your data automatically gets copied and I get all the values now. So I'm just going to copy this whole thing. What I'm doing is I'm pasting special here. What I've done is I've homogenized the two things. This is same as this one, right? This is now same as this one. So VLOOKUP, when you look at VLOOKUP consists of 4 things which are required. Okay, we got a what to find, we got a where to find, sorry, which column do you want to find it, and how do you want to find it, right? So start with 4 things: what, where, which, how. What, where, which, how. What do you want to find? First thing, where do you want to find it? Which column you want the results from, and how do you want the results? Easy way to understand is we just need to replace these with the corresponding values. Okay, what do I want to find? I want to find this. Now next question is, where do I want to find this? Means which table array. If you look here, it says table array, means which table array it wants to you to find. Okay, so I'll go to BOM, okay, and I'll select it entirely, right? From A to C I need to find it. Okay, now my question to you, how do you, in physical world, how do you really find? You find like this, right? If you're looking at a profit loss account, you want to find traveling expenses, how do you find? You go like this and then this, right? This is how you find in physical world. Same way here. Now what to find, where to find, how do you find? Excel also finds like this and it goes this, right? So what to find, Z blah blah, where to find in this array. Now which column you want the result from? I want RM. I want RM value. So what I do is RM is what? 1 and 2. Important thing to understand is the third factor is always a numeric. The third factor is always a numeric. So what should I have? So I'll have here 2, because what I want is, it says column index number, means it wants a number, it wants a numeric. So I'm saying putting in 2. Then it says range lookup. Now range lookup means you want exact result or do you want an approximate result? So in this case, what we want is an exact result. So I'll put a 0, okay, and as soon as I click, so what I get is a value here. Okay, so this is your RM. Okay, this is your raw material. I just double click, so I get all the values. So I'm getting all the values. I can just put it in rupee and paisa. Now I want PM also. I I want PM also. Again, I could use a VLOOKUP. So I think so some of you would be comfortable with it now. First is lookup value. Lookup value means what to find. Okay. Then it says table array. Table array means where to find. Again, those three things. Okay. Then it says column index number, which is the column you want the result to come from, because this time you want a PM, okay, packing material. So what is it? 1, 2 and 3. So this would be a 3, right? This would be a 3. Then it says approximate match or exact match. So what I want is exact match. So I'll put in a 0 or a false, parenthesis close. So now what I get is a PM also. So I just double click, I got all the PMs. Okay, now my total cost, I could say total RMPM, I could say. Okay, so if I pick my total RMPM, so what I'll have is I could simply do a sum of these two. What I get is RMPM. Double click, I get everything. If I just want to calculate the margin, sales price. So sales price is equal to total value divided by quantity. So I'm getting the sales price also, right? So you're understanding how easy it is. Once you understand these things, you can easily do it, right? And now I'm going in for margin, right? So margin is equal to the sales price minus the RMPM. So I get a margin also. So I double click, and if I go for total margin, this is equal to margin multiplied by the quantity. What I get is overall margin, right? So I'm getting the overall margin, and if I want a total RMPM, again is equal to the total RMPM multiplied by total RMPM. So see, very quickly what I could do is, based on the data, I could construct something on match sales now. If I just go down, I just want to aggregate the totals, right? So if I just want to aggregate the totals, and I can aggregate this also. Now my question to you is, you are the auditors, this is the kind of analysis, analytical procedures you have done. So what is the inference you can derive out of it? अभी इसमें से आप क्या-क्या चीज निकाल सकते हैं? Now you are doing a kind of substantive checking, right? You are doing kind of substantive checking. What is, okay, again, very good, Mohit. So you look at what are the cases with the negative GP. If it's a negative GP, is it really so? Or if the margin is very, very high, then again you will be looking at, is it really so? Margin ratio. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll correlate this with the actual GP there. So one thing is you could just correlate this with the actual GP. My question is, this is what? This is the total RM plus PM. This is the total RM plus PM. My total opening stock plus purchases minus closing stock. Is it matching with this, or is there any kind of a difference? The difference could mean leakage, difference could mean anything else. So now you could take a lot of different correlations, right? So this you could use as a substantive testing also. So one of the cases I've taken is the simple case, which could give you a lot of information. Let me tell you, for some of our clients, we do it regularly, and we find a lot of exceptions. In some cases, we have found, that the RMPM actually consumed was very different, and when we check, we even found leakages in that. Point which I wish to make is, with the help of analytical procedures, you can provide value to your client. Friends, always the most important thing is, I always am a firm believer, if you give value, you get value. So you got to give value to your client, and these kind of analysis could give a wonderful value to the client. Now, another thing we talked of is non-financial is the electricity consumption. Okay, electricity consumption versus production in different units, the trend of electricity consumption. So electricity consumption in many units forms a sizable component of your direct costs. This is a sheet which I've got relating to electrical consumptions. These are the various units for one company, which has got 12 units. So each of these days, so much data, so much power has been consumed. So this is based on the meters which have been installed, all the data has been taken. So I want to look at the trends and analysis. Now what I want to do is, now I want to take this data to Excel. Okay. Now this is my sheet which is there. This is my sheet which is there. I want to come up with the electricity consumption. I want to come up with the electricity consumption. Because this data is in a kind of a raw form, it's in a txt form. It's in a txt form which you want to take to Excel, right? Now straight away, if you, there are many options of taking it to Excel. One could be through open, you could just import a text. Now I'll do a very simple exercise. If you're working with me, okay, I'll just copy the whole thing, and what I'll do is I'll paste it out here. But the problem here is, the challenge here is, how do I segregate all these into different columns? How do I segregate all these into different columns? Because one of the issue which arises is, now here if you look at it says 87 units. It's not 87 unit. 8 is a serial number and 7 unit is the name of that unit, in which so much consumption is there. Okay. Now similarly, if you find it is 543 unit, it's not 543. It is 54 is the serial number and 3 is the name of the unit. So a lot of these inconsistencies are there. The first thing which I'd like to introduce you to is the text columns. So we'll be using various techniques to clean this data, and then we'll be analyzing this data, right? So first thing in the process, you'll be learning a bit of Excel also with me, right? So first thing which we need to do is, in data, we have the option of text to columns. In data, we have the option of text to columns. If you go to text to columns, there are two things. One is delimited, other is fixed width. First, let's try to understand. See, whatever data we have is output of some database. वो किसी न किसी database का output है. When you talk of a database, means there are rows, there are columns. And when you export the data into TXT format, now these rows automatically come. Issue is, how do we get these columns? So there are two broad methods. One is delimited, other is fixed width. So the first thing I'll do is I'll segregate the serial number out of this whole data. So I'll be using a fixed width. I'll go to next. Okay. Now there are three things: to create a break line, click; to delete a break line, double click; click and drag. So first thing I'll be doing is I'll just take this whole thing. See, as soon as you come on this, you see your line becomes a bit longer. And if you double click this, your line is gone. Now my first field separator is where immediately after the serial number. Now if you look here, it is segregating the serial number from the rest of the data. So I'll be just using a fixed width to segregate it. I'll go to next. Okay, not much change is required here. I'll go to finish. Now first thing, using text to columns, what I've done is I've changed the serial number and the rest of the data. How can I segregate this? How can I segregate the unit number? How can I segregate the date? How can I segregate the consumption? Flash fill, delimited space. Anirudh, yes, delimited can be done. Snehal, again, delimited can be done. But problem क्या है? Problem ये है कि इसके अंदर somewhere there are two spaces, somewhere there is one space, somewhere again there are two spaces. So spaces are not the same. Somewhere there are two, somewhere are one. So if you use a delimited, it will lead you to so many different columns, and then aggregating them becomes difficult, right? But yes, delimited can be used, but for that first you'll have to trim the data only, then you can use a delimited, because there are many spaces which you could use as a delimited. Now friends, let's have a look at this magical function which is called flash fill. So that is something you can use. I write 3 unit and I go to, there is a function, beautiful function now in Excel 2013 and above, which is called flash fill. Okay, so I just click on it. This function is again based on machine learning. It learns, it tries to interpret what you want to say, it understands your logic and gives you results. So you're using flash fill. What it has done is it is trying to understand my logic. मेरा logic क्या समझ रहा है कि I'll have to put in the data which is before the space. So it's trying to interpret. Sometimes you got to give it 1 or 2 examples so that it can understand, because this function is based on machine learning, right? This function is based on machine learning. The next one is I want a date. So I'll again go for 24th March 2019. Okay, sorry. So I'll go for 24th March 2019. Now when I put this data, and one way is I could go to flash fill, but if you see, there is an option of Control E. As some of you have said, Control E. So if you go to Control E, okay, it is giving me data, but see, it has messed with the data. It says 15th August 02. It is talking of 2002. Okay, somebody that are talking of 2003 means it is not understanding exactly what I want to do. So as I said, sometimes you got to train it, right? Sometimes you need to train it, because as I said, it's based on learning. It learns. You train it, it learns, right? So what I say is कि अरे नहीं बाबा इस तरह नहीं करना. What you need is 15th August 2019. So I'm trying to train it. कि पहला एग्जांपल नहीं समझ में आया, एक और एग्जांपल देता हूँ आपको. ऐसे ओके, now you see it understands me now. It understands me, and beautifully what it has done is it has given me all the dates. It has given me all the dates. Right? Friends, that is the power of FlashFill. Whenever I want some units, okay, now I want some units, so I'll take 0.384. So these are the number of units. So again, I could simply go to FlashFill and my job is done. Right? My job is done. FlashFill has beautifully converted the data into 3 columns. Okay, so now I got a unit number, now I got a date, I got a consumption. So let me label these. Okay, so this is my kilowatts. Okay, and this is the date, right? And this is the unit number, right? So I'm giving it a unit number. So are you looking how beautifully the data has been cleaned now using FlashFill? So something which was raw and very difficult, just a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes, the data is now cleaned up. So I can even delete this whole thing. Okay, I can even delete this whole thing. So let me just delete the whole thing, right? So now my data is beautifully aligned and beautifully placed, right? Now, next thing I want to know is, though this 3 unit or 5 unit doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, समझ में नहीं आ रहे मेरे. So what I need to do is, I want names here. I want proper names here rather than units. I want name of the unit, right? So I want a name of the unit. I don't want this 3 unit, 2 unit. Hai kaun sa? Okay. Now here I got something which is tablet. Unit 1 is tablet section. It's a pharma unit. So 2 unit is again capsule section. 3 unit is hormones and vials and injections and herbals and infusions and blah blah blah. So all these different sections are there. Now, my question to you is, what I can do here to get the names from there? So let's try VLOOKUP. Now, my question is VLOOKUP. Okay, what to find? I need to find this. Where to find? Where to find would be, okay, this one, right? So this is where I want to find it. I'll have to freeze it. Now my question is, what should next come? Anybody in the chat? See, try to understand. VLOOKUP, how does it work? Left to right, never right to left. It works from left to right. So searchable column has to be the leftmost column. Here searchable column is to the right. Searchable column is to the right. So what I can do is, I got a second option which I need to do is, either I need to copy this here. So what I'll do is, I'll just copy this here, or I can use an index match or XLOOKUP. Okay, I can use index match or XLOOKUP. So what I'll do is, I'm just copying this here. I'll again go for a VLOOKUP is equal to VLOOKUP. So what do you want to look up? Where do you want to look up? Now it is on the left. Now I can put in a 2 because I want from the second column 1 and 2. Okay, then I'll put a exact match and done. Okay, so what I got is hormones unit, right? So what I got is hormones unit. Now as soon as I click on it, some cases I've got which I've got NA. NA means it is not found. What it means is 1 unit is not there. Now I want to check now. I want to check whatever units are they there in the other sheet or not? जितने यूनिट इधर है उतने उधर है भी सही या नहीं. So what I could do to find it is, I'll just go here. Now Excel, let me tell you, Excel 365 has got the beautiful functions. What I really request is, all those who are using some older versions of Excel, please go with the latest ones. A lot of new functions, a lot of new facilities are coming which can just enhance your productivity, right? So we got a function which is called now unique. Okay, in unique, I want to check how many units are there. So I could just go here and I want to check how many unique units. how many unique are there? So what I get is we got so many unique, units are there, right? Now, but one unit is here. It's already here. Here also we got one unit, tablets, but here it is saying NA. Can somebody come up with why so? Yeah, there could be extra spaces, right? So there could be extra spaces. So the way out is, we talked of earlier, we can trim, right? We can trim the data, right? Remove the extra spaces. I just click on it, copy it across, copy, and then what I do is paste special. Okay, sorry. So here what I need to do is D4 to C16. Sorry, I need to just change it to this thing, and what I need to do is I need to freeze it because that was causing the problem, right? I got all of them. Okay. So I got serial number, I got unit number, date, how many kilowatts, and what is the name of the concerned unit. Now, as some of you said, you could use XLOOKUP also. I'll just show you very quickly how XLOOKUP works, because it's a brand new function and takes away your earlier functions like if error and all those kind of things. Okay, so we got this brand new function which is XLOOKUP. Now XLOOKUP says lookup value, so you need to put in lookup value. Then it says lookup array. No, it doesn't say table array, it says lookup array. So in lookup array, I'll just go here and I will select this one. So this is the lookup array, right? And then it says return array. Now because it says return array, so it doesn't matter whether I select this one or the other one, right? I can even select this one. And then it says if not found, means if it is not there, what do you want? So you won't get an NA. I'd want a blank rather than that. Okay. And now I want an exact match. And here you can also search from first to last or last to first. So plenty of new options are there. So plenty of wonderful options are there. So I'll go from first to last, close the parenthesis. Okay. So again, I got the same things. I got hormones and everything. So this works from left to right as well as right to left. Now friends, a very powerful tool we have within Excel with which you can, do lot of analysis is something called as pivot tables. So I'll just give you a very simple example. So what I'll do is I'd like to make a pivot out of this whole thing. Okay, pivot means rotate, okay, change. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm creating a pivot out of this whole data. So I'm just going to it, okay, going to a new worksheet. Okay, so here I got a pivot. Okay, now these are my fields and these are the areas where I can put various things. I mean, I could have something in filters or columns or rows or values. Now first thing I want to know is consumption by the name of the unit. Okay, first I want to know is consumption by the name of the unit. And probably one more thing we could do is I could also come up with day here. Okay, I want to know which days, because that way we could look at what is the weekly trend. Now day we can easily get using the function text. Now what text says is, and the format we need is DDD. Now DDD gives you the day of the week. Okay, now once I double click it, I got everything now. Even I've got the day of the week with me. Which I can use. Okay, so again I go to pivot table. Now this time what I do is I can change the source data. Okay, now my source data doesn't have the day right now. So I could just select the data again, click on OK. Now I got day also, right? So I want to look at day-wise consumption. So I just take rows to day and kilowatts to values. So dekha jadoo. Within 1 second, everything summarized. On Monday, so many units. Tuesday, so many units. Wednesday, so many units. You want to further, put in more understandable form. Go to value field settings. Okay. Go to number format. Okay, so I go to number with a decimal of 3 because kilowatts are usually used with 3 decimals. Now I click on OK. So what happens is now my data is in 3 units, right? So it has got 3 decimals, so it makes it more understandable. So what I'm doing is taking day to the rows, and I've taken kilowatt to the value. So that gives me consumption by the day. Means how much is the consumption on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or Saturday. I could even go for a date-wise analysis. So see, pivot tables, the benefit of pivot table is you can spin the data. Pivot means what? Pivot means the center axis around which something can spin. So here you can spin the data, right? You can rotate the data. Okay. So I just click it out. Now what I want is date-wise consumption. So I just click, I take date to row. So what I got is now date-wise consumption. One click, what I got is date-wise consumption, right? But kya hai ki, no, this makes it too long. Makes it very difficult to understand. Probably I'd want a month-wise consumption. Okay. So just right-click on it. We got an option of group. Okay. You got an option of group. Okay. Click on group. You can group by months, you can group by quarters, you can group by years. So many different options are there. I just group by month. Now what I got is monthly consumption. Okay, during January, February, what is the consumption? So in one click, what you get is what is the consumption which is there. I think the beauty of it all, right? You can spin the data. You could have different analysis of data. Okay, how different components, how what is the relationship between month and the consumption, what is the relationship between day and the consumption. I could also use day, I could take the day to columns also. So now this is another view. So I got my month in here. Okay, I got my days which are out at the top. Okay, now what I got is another view, and again a beautiful view. What is the consumption month-wise and day-wise? Now probably you'd want to check up for different units. So what I could do is I could just take unit. I could take the unit to filters. So you see, so ऊपर एकदम filter आ गया. I want to see only for beta-lactam unit. Click on beta-lactam. Click on OK. Now this is the electricity consumption for beta-lactam. If you want to check for capsules unit, now this is consumption for capsules unit. Okay. If you want to have multiple, okay, I want to have capsules plus beta-lactam. Capsules plus beta-lactam. Okay. I want to have for everything total consumption. Beautiful summarization created instantly. Another thing is I could just take it out. My filters are gone. And let me tell you, Pivot has got a beautiful feature which is called slicers. Now slicers are basically visual filters. Okay, so I'd like to just put in some slicers. So here I got slicers also. Now slicers work like filters. Yes, Anirudh. Okay, so I could work with filters. So it is beta-lactam, it is capsules, it is enzymes. It's become very interactive, you see. It's become very interactive. These are visual filters which are there. Herbals. You want to remove all the filters? Fine. Okay. So let me take it out here. Okay. I can even set it up. I can set it up to 2 columns or maybe 3 columns just to make it more friendly and interesting and more considering the space I have. Even color it. Okay. I could want it in the green, mere wala green, right? So you could just set it up here. Another beauty is I can even convert it into some kind of charts. Okay, so just go there and create a pivot chart. Okay, now on the fly you can make a chart. You want a column chart or a line chart. See, for trends, always line charts are something you can easily see the trend, right? So I'll go with the line chart and click on OK. We dekha a beautiful line chart comes in. A beautiful line chart comes in. Okay, I want to see beta-lactam. So this is my beta-lactam. I want to see capsules. This is capsules. This is enzymes. This is infusions. This is hormones. This is herbals. This is injections and liquids. And everything. Do you see the interactivity, the kind of insights you could get out of these. ओके अभी आप देखना चाहते हैं प्रोडक्शन क्या इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कंजम्पशन के हिसाब से है, किस यूनिट में कितना कंजम्पशन हुआ, कितना प्रोडक्शन हुआ, what was the yield, why is it that there is a spike in June, July? Is it because of air conditioning? Is it because of more production? Okay, so you could analyze how much of the electricity, because electricity is not only used in production, it is used in your oral air conditioning. Probably they need AHUs to operate. Okay, they need some kind of air handling units to operate. Okay, so there'll be more need of air conditioning or air handling units, in summers, So probably June and July are peak months, because we are talking of a medical unit. In medical unit, the temperature has to be maintained, humidity has to be maintained, right? So what kind of humidity is being maintained? What kind of temperature needs to be maintained? So probably they are using more of this, and probably in January, it's too cold, so they have got to maintain the heating and everything to maintain constant temperature, right? So just by doing that, you are looking at, are there any adverse things out here? Okay, friends, that is the power of analytical procedures. So if we talk of analytical procedures, we have talked about ratios, we have talked about trend lines. Okay, so these are the trend lines you can easily see. I'll show you one more simple example of a trend line, how it has helped my client, right? So these are the trend lines which could give you a lot of information as a substantive procedures which are there. Now, just imagine the kind of insights you could get, and not only for audit. If you are a consultant also for your company, you could provide this as a value. The company could get to know where our power is being wasted, right? It could look at where the spikes are, why the spikes are there, okay, right? Why is it that during Saturdays there is something which is more, and Saturday supposed to be closed, why is there a spike? So plenty of trends you could see out there, okay, for each of these. Okay, so like if you just go to infusions, okay, so spikes are different, enzymes again spikes are different, okay, capsule spikes are different. So that would help the client analyze what are the different electricity consumptions across different units, right? So why is it that on in the capsules unit on Monday there is a very big spike, okay, and the spike is lesser on a Thursday, right? So that could help them analyze the data, right? So that is one simple example of this. Friends, like I said, there are plenty of ways to do it again, okay, and just to give you a bit of a view of where the future lies, okay. Now friends, future lies with machine learning, future lies with artificial intelligence, okay. So I'm very fond of making YouTubes. Excel has been my passion, Excel has been my passion. I make a lot of YouTubes. I'll be sharing the link also with you where you could just go there and see. Now, see, this is the latest one. This is the analyzed data. Analyzed data is an artificial intelligence powered now new thing which is there with Excel. So if you just go to analyzed data, okay, you can see a lot of trends there. Okay, you can immediately see kilowatt by serial numbers, which is not much relevant. Okay, kilowatt by unit number. On the fly, it has given you data. So in 7 unit, how much on Saturday, how much on Friday, how much on Thursday. You want to put in the pivot, just click on insert pivot. Your data is done now. Okay, your data is done. What is the average of kilowatt across all of these? One fly thing is done. Okay, now kilowatt is showing a repeating pattern. So it is giving you a wonderful trend, what is happening out there, right? So friends, that is the power of artificial intelligence. That is the power of machine learning. And what I'll say is, that is where you need to graduate to. Okay, save your time, yaar. Save your time. ये काम एक्सेल को करने दो, दिमाग एक्सेल को लड़ाने दो. आप सिर्फ लेटेस्ट एक्सेल ले लो. Okay, वो आपको इतने सारे ट्रेंड दे देगा, इतना इनसाइट्स दे देगा कि आपका क्लाइंट भी बोलेगा वाह मजा आ गया. The kind of the things your client could get, it is amazing, I tell you, it is amazing. Okay, just one more example of trend lines and I'll just finish my session. Okay, okay, so I'm not giving you this data, I'm just showing you how these kind of things help. This is one of the data for one of my clients. Okay, so these are the sale rate and the item across different days. Sale rate and items across different days. Okay, Now, for my client, the sale rate is same throughout the year. That means there is not much of a change, right? There is no volatility in the product. Now, what I wanted to see was that in sales, now for this kind of a client, my question is what should be the maximum ratio? The maximum ratio should be 1, right? Because the price is constant, right? But what we did was we took the data and we analyzed the data and we formed these kind of spark lines. So these are spark lines. If you can see, these are spark lines which we have. Now using spark lines, we could easily see the trend. Now here it is increasing trend. ठीक है, पहले good was being sold for 80 rupees, then price increased to 90 rupees. So not an issue for me, right? Sales है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. But if I just come down here and I see this kind of an erratic trend, means goods have been sold for 22 rupees also, 25 rupees also, 24 rupees also, and there is an erratic trend. Now question is, why is it so? Question is, why is it so, right? Again, in many other things, you'll see some kind of erratic trends. For 16, then 18.9, then again 16, then 19.8. Now my question is, why is there a difference, right? We actually did this analysis and we sent to the client, and he found leakages out there. Okay, of course, this was a kind of a mistake, but by mistake, they had billed the goods at a lower price, and he could recover the money from his clients. Now, friends, my question to you is, अगर आप इस तरह का वैल्यू अपने क्लाइंट को देते हो, don't you think the client is going to value you? Friends, you give value, you get value. Okay, so we saw analytical procedures, we saw ratio analysis, we saw some trend lines, okay, we saw various ways of doing these kind of things. Now friends, my question is, do you want to differentiate yourself? If you really want to differentiate yourself, I have shared the tools which you can use. You can make your audit much more meaningful to your client as well as yourself. So friends, we have talked during the session, we have talked about analytical reviews, we have talked about SA 500, we have talked about SA 520, we have talked about SA 315, we have talked about relationships, we have talked about at the initial how you could use something like a Banish model to look at the risk. Okay, we have also talked about how you can use ratio analysis for analyzing your client data as a part of substantive tests, as well as we talked about how you can clean the data, okay, how you can correlate the things, how you could find out the trends, okay, how you can correlate your cost of production with the GP or the margin, how you could verify the cost of the inventories which are there. Let me tell you one thing based on my experience. As Khurana said, I did my CA in 89, and so almost 32 years of experience. I can tell you from my experience, if you give value, you get value. So you got to start thinking about how you can contribute to your client, how you can contribute to the client. And let me tell you, client also contributes to your growth, and client also values you. So that is my take on whole of the thing. So thank you so much. And as I said, you can link to me on YouTube as well as LinkedIn. Provide me with your valuable feedback, because your valuable feedback helps me grow. Okay. So on to any kind of questions. So I'm sharing the whole thing. Okay. So I'm just stopping the sharing from my end. And
thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presence here. As it is rightly said that investment in knowledge pays the best interest. So I really thank you for sparing your valuable time and sharing knowledge with our audience. And a big thanks to Vivek Khurana sir for organizing such sessions for our audience. And I'm pretty sure that our audience would love this session. And also, please share your feedback, as feedback also keeps us motivating to organize such sessions in future. So really thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks to the audience. And by this, we can end this session. Yes, sir. And it was really a nice session.
Thank you very much. And a very good day to all of you.
Believe in this video you learned something new. If you like this video, please subscribe, like the video, share it, give comments. We will continue to share more Excel tips. Thank you. Stay tuned.